Hello guys, you see, I guess you can see I'm not doing fucking well here. So I have decided to write something with the help of my few friends and even fanfics. So yeah, if you can see the thumbnail, you can clearly see what kind of ship is gonna be. But again, you can say the ship is gonna be fun. I guess you can say only that. Oh, and I don't know Naruto. I just owe the story here that I'm gonna write. Or I'm gonna fucking. Fuck, you're gonna fucking see already. Now, I'm gonna call this, the Seal of the Forgotten Time. Maybe it's a fucking awesome nickname, but I fuck. Month after Pain's utter destruction of the village, villagers, both citizens and ninja, were working on rebuilding the village. Tents were set up outside of the premises while the buildings were getting put together. Construct worker from the other nation traveled to the destroyed Konoha site to help rebuild and provide necessary supplies to get the job started. Months later, we see somebody making hundreds of shadow clones to quick the place of construct the village. He the he had blonde spiky hair, tanned skin, and 6 identical whiskers mark on his cheek, 3 on the each. Because of his condition, his canine and nails were longer than usual, making them fangs. They'll poke out of his mouth and claws. Also, the pupil in his ocean blue eyes were sitting, making a fox-like in appearance. He continued to wear his orange and black jumpsuit. When the village witnessed the mass creation of blonde shadow clone, they cheered for their hero, shouting things like, "Our blonde hero has finally arrived! Hooray for the hero of Konoha!" Someone even walked up to him and asked him for his autograph. Usually this would make Naruto blush in embarrassment, but after months of curious praise, it started to get on his nerves. He had things to do, and these people continued to interrupt his plans. "Please, people, I'm very busy. I only create the shadow clones to lend you a hand while I was on my way to do my own thing," he said, walking between the villages, thinking about what he was going to do. After nearly going 9 tails against Pain and meeting his father face to face, he decided to search for his father's estate to collect what was his. He had thousands of clones searching all around high on Kuni. His father mentioned something about his house being near a mountain. His clone checked the cage mountain already and found nothing, but also considered his father's Harasshin technique. The house could be anywhere in the entire continent. Hell, it could be in Iwagakure for all I know, which would be weird. He shook his thought away and focused on the job at hand. 3 weeks later. It was now 3 weeks later and the nation were at the war. Of Naruto wasn't, but he still knew after all he has gotten smarter and more calmer. Right now he was in the giant turtle as he was given a mission to study on some animals, so you could tell he hissed about that. Well, at least something good happened before he got this mission. He found the house of his father around 2 weeks ago. It was on top of the mountain, a couple of miles away from the Valley of the End. He climbed the mountain using nothing but his hand, as physical training, of course. It could still remember how pissed I was, the blonde thought as he sat next to a tree, began to meditate for a while. Flashback 2 weeks ago. The blonde was currently climbing a mountain, his clone in from him as his father's house was near the peak. He was suffering from a mid-case of nostalgia due to the house being a couple miles away from the Valley of the End, where he had his first true fight with someone who used to consider his brother. His head peeked over the top of the mountain and he pulled his body over the top. He was confused now. How someone would put a house in put a house so far from mountain, or how they even got the supplies up here. He was currently looking over to the side of the mountain. He could barely see the ground. Suddenly a bolt of lightning passed right through his ear. Some of the bolt touched his ear, causing to become numb. He turned around to see a fireball coming at him. He swiftly dodged, using chakra to quick his movement. He ran forward at the regular house that was firing technique, but it was difficult when spike made of earth rose from the ground under him. He did not know how, but purely on instinct, he focused chakra on the bottom of his foot and until his chakra became soiled as he stood on the spike as it rose up. He hopped off the one spike after another until after the fifth hop, he landed on the ground. How did I do that? He asked himself before whirlwind surrounded him. Yet again, on instinct, he jumped straight in the air over the top of the small whirlwind and landed outside of the fucking tornado. He sprinted to the house after landing. Just as he got there, 10 yards of a focus push on him. The gravity was intense. It was last 10 times as much as it was couple feet behind him. Holy God. I am so heavy. What the hell is going with this place? He looked over to see a structure of rock using him the ground. You gotta be kidding me, he muttered, using all his strength to raise from his feet. Only one of the whirlwind blood commanded his creature. A strange voice, only the whirling blood could command this creature. A strange voice spoke every direction. The blonde did not have time to freak out, but because the golem charged at the teenage shinobi, not having a problem with the gravity effect, the blonde was immediately punched out of the area, landing an inch from a spike. Naruto held his chest in pain. He surprised as he looked up to see the golem coming at him. Except this time he was even faster. Oh, I see. Without being weighted down, the rockhead could move faster. Great. Naruto thought, rolling to the side, causing the golem to miss the punch and completely destroy the spike. Not wasting any time, Naruto dashed back to the area where he knew the gravity effect would be in the place. Might as well get used to it. I could use this as my training, he said as he felt himself being weighted down again. He jumped back as the golem struck with an overhead axe strike. Naruto then jumped as high as he could. When the golem threw a wide hammer, he landed on the arm, but when the arm stopped, he kept going and he was flung from his position. His face collided with the floor and he yelled into the ground. His danger sense told him to roll, and since it saved his life so many times in the past, he rolled over just in time because the golem fist was in the ground. Now, on his back, he reached up to punch and grabbed the exploding note and threw it at the boulder face. Katsu, he yelled as it exploded. He used this time to rise to his feet and make a run for the house. Even going a full meter, his right foot was grabbed. He looked back to see the golem was without a scratch. That is gonna hurt, he mumbled as he was lifted into the air and slammed into the ground. He coughed. Blood and dust rose from it. This cannot be the way to it end. I need to think a way to put an end to this torture. He became angry, and when a small amount of Kyuubi's chakra entered his system as he began to yell, "You fool, stop using my chakra!" The blonde stopped as he flowed the demonic chakra and causing the pain to stop. "Don't use my chakra again. There is something different about this place, and use of demonic chakra causes serious pain. Remember that kanji we seen carved in the side of the mountain on the way here? Yeah, it said Shin, meaning pure. So I guess there is a deal about malice or hatred would get rejected. But right, you need to find a way to deal with the rock." The blonde nodded as he felt himself being lifted in the air, getting an idea as he came out of the cloud as he does finish his last hand sign. Here, he eat only he eats the only lightning technique I know. R- lightning technique, ratio. Almost immediately, a seer of lightning bolt came out of Naruto's hand. The blonde through the earth was trembling, weak against the lightning technique. He was proved right. When the golem exploded, causing rocks to fly everywhere, he landed on his back with a small smile. Ha! It's over. This time he proved wrong. When the structure began to repair itself before his eye. Oh, come on, really, he said as he began to remember what had earlier. Oh, only thing that the wearing blood can command the creature. Does that mean an Uzumaki can take control of the golem? He said to himself as the golem in question was fully put back on together. The walking boulder began to walk toward the blonde again and stopped. The blonde yelled, causing the golem to further in his step. This angered the blonde, and I command you to stop. This didn't do anything. As the golem continued, I said, be still. Not yell because he was getting angry with the golem, and two because he was feeling pain. Worse than pain stabbed him on the torso. This had most effect of the golem to stop. Now go back where you came from. The golem nodded and began breaking the ground as boarding in. After the last rock, it was as boarded. Naruto dropped to his knees and finally over. After a while, Naruto rose back to his feet and began to walk toward the house. Well, at least you can move easier. Yeah, that's because I had to fight a fucking structure of rock. I guess you can do anything when you have to fight for your life. If it's withstanding gravity 10 times the regular amount. After reaching within 5 yards of house, a hologram of his mother and father appeared in front of him. He took a step back in shock and surprise. He was more surprised when the hologram vanished. Thinking it was a genjutsu, he pressed his finger into the ram seal, muttered Kai, sending a pulse of chakra all direction. He watched shocked as the place in the air became distorted and the inches around the house, telling him that was some kind of barrier around the house. Also, after his revelation, he stepped forward, beginning the hologram of his parents back. Hey son, I see you found the house and got past the golem. That's your Uzumaki blood at work there. I was a little nervous with the idea, but I can tell you activated the lost bloodline of the Uzumaki. What? Wait, what bloodline? What bloodline? I have a bloodline? Unfortunately, I have no idea what the bloodline is supposed to be. All I know is there was another with it. Kushina stopped talking. Another Uzumaki with a bloodline. Who is it? I'm the only Uzumaki in the world, the last of my kind. QB, did you find any different about me yet? He asked the Biju. Nope, nothing at all. Sorry, kid. Wow, look at you. You should have grown. What are you, 30, maybe even 40-year-old? I remember when you were just born. You were so small you could fit in my hand. The hologram of the Yandemu said, holding out his hand. Naruto grew angry as his speech progressed. It seems that he was supposed to inherit his parents' place when he turned 30. He clenched his hand into the fist. His nail dug into his skin as he nearly dropped blood. So, how does it feel to be a Genin? I see you're wearing the Konoha hentai proudly. Minato finished his speech. At this point, Naruto just walked forward as his nail dropped blood. It wasn't even a second later when the blood poured inside his hand. It was spread through his knuckle, running down his fist and dropping out on the floor. Calm down, kid. Weren't you on the training trip with your sensei during this time period? And besides, who is in the village would even know about your family private house? Nobody that knows. Now calm down. Naruto had reached the door of his house, not paying attention to the hologram parents. He did came. Naruto reached the door to his house, not paying attention to the hologram parents. He did calm down after hearing his Biju. He grabbed the doorknob to the door. When his hand touched the doorknob, the seal that was on the nose spread out soon covered the entire house. This little event also canceled the barrier around the house that his parents' hologram. He entered the house to find that it was a regular house. It had a couple of chairs and tables in the middle of the living room. The kitchen, also spacious, didn't contain a lot of food. There was only two bedrooms. His parents and the other wasn't entirely finished with the finish. He can tell. He could tell that it was supposed to be his. He found a door in a small hallway and opened it. He tried to open it. He realized there was a seal with the kanji for blood. In the middle of the middle, he looked at his hand, and the previous blood that covered it. It was gone. Having wiped it on his pant, the wound healed thanks to the fox. He slid a claw over his palm, beginning to fresh blood as he pressed the hand to the door, watching the light up for a while. Before he heard a click, the door slid open. He watched as the palm sealed before walking and finding a very large amount of scroll on Funjutsu, Ninjutsu, and Genjutsu. He looked around, even found some Taijutsu and Kenjutsu scroll. After an hour in the library, he left hundreds of clones to learn every single thing they could, because let's face it, he didn't have a chance to survive in this war. He also needed to find a way to defeat the remaining Uchiha. He stood outside of the house, getting ready to make his way down, with the thought of his mysterious bloodline in his mind. Release flashback. Nothing looked around, scoffing as Karibai wrote lyrics in a little notebook. He needed to find a way that of the island that he was getting tired of all the animals, and he was only here for a couple of hours. What kind of strange mission was this? Taking care of the skitterized animal on this island. Something he hated his village. Sometimes hated his village. Yo nine, let's go tame beast. The big dark skinned Kimonin said. The blonde glanced at the Hachibi container. Sorry, B, but I have got my own agenda, he said using a body flicker. He appeared at the peak of the island. As his headband tails were blown east with wind. As he knew, he was a coat of Kimo. And if he knew his grappery, the way back home would be south. As he focused his windchako to his feet and jumped as far as he could, as any newfound skill in advanced wind manipulation to help him to glide in the air. It wasn't long enough until he landed on the water, half a kilometer away from there. He didn't stop there. He focused his secondary element to his feet and vanished in a spark of lightning after. Since Konoha didn't want him to fight in the war, he was going to have to go solo and face Madara himself. He had those dozens of clones. Looking at the seal at his house, he knew the man could make himself intangible for duration of time. He put his body in another dimension. He didn't know how long he could stay in the little pocket dimension, so he needed to create time controlling seal, something that nobody has achieved ever. Well, I'm going to be the first, he thought as he continued to run on the water, thankfully for his large reserve of chakra because this was going to be a long run. Several hours later, after running for hours, Naruto was beginning to get tired of running, constantly using lightning-covered chakra to make him go faster as he could even dream of doing with his regular chakra. He was starting to get really drained as his chakra. He looked around, noticed a small chain island were near. It was near time to take break anyway. Maybe. So guys, after running for hours, Naruto was beginning to get tired of constantly using lightning covered chakra to make him go faster than he could ever dream of doing with regular chakra. It was starting to really drain his chakra. He looked around and noticed a small chain of islands were near. It was time to take a break anyway. Maybe he could use this time to check up on his time seal. He walked on the title little shore and dropped into a meditation pose. I tried to speak with one of his clone, hoping he could from his distant boss. Do you? Naruto heard Naruto in his head. His clone voice was zooming in out. The blonde shook his head and stood up and moved closer to the island and repeated to progress, getting the same transformation. He continued to do until he gave up and got back running. After an hour, he saw a cruise ship, a boat civilian take on vacation. It was a perfect as they were going the same way as he was. Now he could relax and restore his chakra, but not at the moment, as he had yet to board the ship. He stealthily jumped on the side of the ship and poked his head over the railing. The first thing he saw was a beautiful civilian teenager girl screeching before she got in the pool. She was bleeding over, but he was bending over her finger, touching her toes as she was dressed in a pink two-piece bikini and had long luscious legs framed behind, as she had really long pink hair and went down her frame. And that all as he could see her quick drop his head and fell back into the water. He was blushing. A small trail of blood went down his nose at the thought of that pop into his mind at what he could do with the girl. I knew it. Deep down you were the perverted sense of his as tamed you. Now you one of us. Ha ha ha. The blonde heard a deep voice in his head. Naruto shook his head, denying the accusation, and formed the ram seal as he transformed into a bird and flew on the deck. Flew on the deck. He craned his neck, watching the civilian keeping up the act of bird. Some of the people that were watching him, he flapped his wing few high into the sky, passing the cloud, where he dispelled his technique and quickly made a shadow clone that transformed them into all blood. The flock of birds then dove toward the ship, landed at various pace, with the real Naruto landing somewhere else, and displayed a disguise as he removed his hentai 8 and proceeded to take his jacket and shirt off. He finished as he commanded his clone via mind link to fly to the pirate house, where they all dispelled their disguise and replace his other clone. All needed to complete the look of vacationing citizen. As he was swimming trunk, he glanced around and headed toward the logging board. As he looked around for some trunks, as he tried to trick the vent room, but some room went which could made him wipe his nose. He found some truck in the vent room and quickly put on some after taking his pant and sandal off. Seeing everything tamed seal on his arm, he only had about 2 days before the link that used up and his stuff appeared. The trunk looked great at his opinion. They were black and orange, filled with dragon on his left leg. He looked himself in the mirror, gave a smile as he stepped outside and began to relax. He sat at the table and the waitress walked to him. Hey sir, would you like some drink to relax? She asked him, her dark red hair flowing with the breeze as her large, you know, was staring against her while a black shirt. Naoto nodded and she bought him with a drink. Minute later, he took a sip and relaxed, looking at the lovely ladies around him. Ah, I needed this a little break. I wonder if B told them I was gone yet. He thought to himself. 2 days later, with the allied cages, he did what? Sonata of the Sun roared in anger at Naruto's stupidity as Kirby calmly stood there at all seriousness as he was carrying a sandon of his previous owner Samehara. As he was carrying Samehara with the previous owner of Kisame being dead of all. That's right, Hokage Dono. The nine just up and left. He doesn't even have his beast fully tamed yet. Without proper control, he is going to be captured by Madara on the ox, Jinchuriki said. I don't doubt your accusation, Kirby-san. We must find him before it's too late, Ambu, she yelled, and a four-man squad of Anbu appeared in a black cloak. I want you to find and bring Uzumaki Naruto back here where he was given his punishment, as she ordered, as the Ambu nodded and vanished. The big milk of jug. Hokage turned back to her fellow cage but stopped from speaking when Might Guy entered the room with some news. Hokage-sama, the enemies are mobilizing. All 5 cages seated their emotion at the news and start to mobilize their own troop. Thus, fully untied the 5 was truly uniting the 5 nations. 3 days later, Naruto had been working on the seal that would help him and end Madara's life. The entire time he was on the cruise, the pirate, of course, which was hard with all the ladies wearing skimmy bikinis and having water cleaned onto their bodies, making him enjoy the acid even more. He would even had fun last day of cruise with the same chick's ass in the face. First he tried to sneak up on the ship. Man, she was kinky. Hey kid, how many times do you think she bit into your neck? The fox said, causing now to the shiver delight after reminded about how kinky she was. A couple of times fooled by her, there was her name again, now to ask, wearing a pair of black cargo shorts and skin-tight rushed orange shirt. The seal on his arm expired as he reactivated his scrolls and ninja equipment. His new attire was better than the last one. He wouldn't recognize as easily when he would still be recognized because of his viscous mug. But there was no way to hide from them without wearing something on his face. Her name, let's see. I think it was Mocha. Man, did that babe have some fangs? I can't believe you forgot her name. Kiwi rolled in his head in disappointment. Yes, you can say Rosary plus Vampire. I guess you can say I didn't know this also. Now to put his weapon pouch back on his hip and sat in the grass. As he reached a shadow clone that drew seal on his wrist as he shuriken. Hey, in my defense, it's not my fault. With all the blood sucking she did, I'm surprised I didn't pass out. No, I'm glad I didn't pass out, he said, getting up after the clone finished and seal his shurikens. Why are you so glad you didn't pass out? A voice behind the blonde. Oh, Wanchi. The blonde slowly turned around to see Madara Sasuke standing meters away from him. What the fuck are you doing here? And how long have you been standing here? Naruto said, getting ready to pull his new skill to the test. Dispelling the clone at his house. and gain more knowledge. Madara smirked behind his mask as he glanced at Sasuke. Sasuke here couldn't wait to fight you in the battle. So, after hunting for a couple of days, well, here we are. We caught a fox, Madara said, chuckling at his joke. Really? The two teens thought, glancing at the older Uchiha. Listen, man, just let me handle this. You just stand back and don't get on me or I'll kill you next, Sasuke said, hopping off the tree and landing on his feet, few meters away from Naruto. Finally, we meet again, dope. I hope you are at your full power right now, because I'm sure I am. The demanded teen said, putting a hand on his sword. Naruto stared at his former teammate and noticed something different about him. His eyes contained more focus than rage, as his stance showed his confidence in his apart victory. Oh, I was afraid of this, a blonde inner Kitsune said. After what? Naruto asked, unsealing a pair of elegant blades. They were black only on the side, the shape white on the other, jagged or separate. He didn't know how to explain. He had them reverse gripped, got in relaxed, but ready to stand. Do you remember Uchiha Itachi? QB asked as the memories of Uchiha flashed out his mind. Flashback. Naruto opened the door of the hotel, only come to face with a pair of fully matured Sharingan eyes. It flashed against. It shows Itachi's body turning into a flock of crows and flying away. Once again, it was flashed to show one of those crows flying right at his mouth and him swallowing it. I have given you a large amount of my power. Use it wisely. The blonde was left speechless, unable to give a reply to the retreating Uchiha. The image faded slowly and falling from the sky, and Naruto's shocking body standing over Itachi's eyeless corpse. Nothing was said between Naruto and the rest of the group as Naruto took a kneel in his hand, brushing his loose, afraid the hair away from the Uchiha eyeless socket. I will, Itachi-san. The knowledge and the power you have given me, it will help me to right your wrongs, and the blonde whispered as he stood to his feet. End of flashback. Naruto was returning to the area when his memories shattered around him. He was returned to see Sasuke raising an eyebrow at his blade. Before the Uchiha could question the blonde about his blade, Naruto spoke. So you took your brother's eye, the blonde didn't really ask, but stated. It was like a statement. You reach an all-time low, Sasuke. Teima. The blonde seemed as his people stared to horizon as he entered sage mode. He was glad he knew how to remain completely still in any position thanks to his training. The young Uchiha ignored the torrent and the change of his regular Sharingan to eternal Mangekyou Sharingan. That was a weird mix of both of his and his brother Mangekyou Sharingan. Meanwhile, the elder Uchiha was watching from his perch as a near tree branch. Finally, this time has come to see the two fight. After all its fate that brought them together. During this space, Naruto finally contained to gather natural chakra, making a bright orange in his iris become dark orange. He then vanished in surprise, both Uchiha at his speed, but their eternal Mangekyou, eternal Sharingans, fatally recognized the path the sage took. Sasuke held up his Kusanagi to the left to block one of Naruto's blades. He kneeled back a little due to the power behind the strike. He was barely able to push the blonde off of him. Blondie did a black flip and landed 3 meters away from the Dutch bag. The Uchiha left liquid on his cheek and lifted his hand to his left cheek and looked the liquid on his finger. Blood. But how? He muttered. His eyes darkened and twisted smirk appeared on his face. This just become more exciting, he said. The blonde spoke at his formal command, hearing what he said. As he took a couple of hope that further the laid sharp wind and his blade as he fixed his fist as he did, further ready to himself. Mother watched from his spot and smirked at the two. It's a shame for someone so skilled to fail. They will soon. I will have my pet back, only to trade it in a better pet. He stopped thinking to return to his focus on the fight. 2 hours later, the clearing had been completely destroyed. Black flames were everywhere. There were craters inside of the craters. In the biggest was Naruto. He was in the middle with 8 tails swinging behind. His body composed that was maintained QB minus full a tail. One floor in front of me, Mini Kitsune was Sasuke of the life in his eye. They were gone as his body was completely mist and right still. The young Uchiha's body was spread all around the battlefield. Instead of taking full control of Naruto, the fox stayed true to the deal he and LeBron made long ago and returned control to the team. The physical make of the fox body twisted, turned different direction. A minute later, it resembles of a human. The 8-tail morphed and contoured and curved from two tails. Secondary after that, very dense yokai removed itself from the blonde's body, causing the Genin's clothes to have revealed or what was left in that hat. The shirt had been fully ruined and countless Chidori's sin bones and various fire techniques. Mother stood half a kilometer away because the destruction and the longevity of the fight had destroyed the area they were fighting in. I'm surprised young Naruto killed his best friend. Of course, Sasuke had no intention of holding himself back and hold no doubt about wanting to kill his rival, but Naruto of all people coming out of top. What kind of training he did to put himself through since he had 3 months. 3 months ago, Madara began to walk toward the epicenter of destruction. Watching the blonde carefully as the weight of killing his friend would soon cross his mind. Naruto looked down as remains of his old friend. His eyes started to slightly burn as he nearly body focus as he need. He rubbed his eyes for a while, opened. He communicated face to face with Sasuke's own face. He had a small flashback the time that Sasuke had intense fight in the Valley of the End. It was ironic, isn't it, Sasuke? This time it's me over you. I wish you wouldn't have focused my hand at this. He lifted his hand at Sasuke's eye, closed as his eyelid. Jubitsu Suru Watashi no Yujin. Rest in peace, my friend, he said softly as the pain in his eyes said be dissipating, altering. Now to pay no attention to the chakra leaving his eyes. He turned to the last and true Uchiha on the face of earth, QB. So I didn't pay any attention to his container. Listen, brat, you still have to get rid of that man's annoying ability. Make the seal careful to make. He won't let you, the Kitsune said. The blonde barely had a word of the fox said, but moved to do what he was planning, which was fortunate to make the seal. The tin smirk forming across the deal as his finger Taiju Cage Banishing no Jutsu and summon thousands of clones. That QB single tail cloak charged at the Uji. The elder was smirking and began to show the blonde what just was fear. It has just become the intangible and rushed to the original. It would have ruined his fun. The original Naruto uses enhanced speed and heightened out all there. Second after the large and a large column of black flames stood up in the air. The memories of his clone made him go faster and a seal. Halfway through seal, Madara appeared behind him and tried to take his head off. It would make happen if Naruto didn't sense the man in the exact moment he just appeared. He began to jump backward. He still drew the seal as fast as he could, the best he could. Cursing himself for spilling snake on his previous dimension. Seal and couple of hours ago. He was with the cruise. He didn't have made another one, but yeah, Mocha happened. Mother pushed his target for multiple fireball and even a couple of air bullets, said target. The blonde dodged some of the technique and uses his tail and swept the Uchiha's body away, and with the rest of the technique. The sweat caused the man to bounce and sit along the ground. The blonde chuckled to see the Uchiha did not know how to predict the movement of his chakra tails. He knew so soon as Mother recovered from the attack, as he was going to be pissed about it, just like Sasuke was. So he started gathering chakra in front of him. His eyes twitches as he touched barely, avoiding a blade fan. He turned and kicked the man in the chest and rolled in the ground. Thankfully, he didn't mess up any ink for the seal. He resumed gathering the chakra. Before he knew it, he was finished. Charging up, he compressed the ball of chakra and ate it. Madara got back to his feet. He wasn't Naruto to retrain his reflex. Even after fighting Sasuke, playtime is over. This time ended the little game. Naruto roared as his chakra beamed at the Uchiha and watched in satisfaction. The man was vaporized. He kept it for as long as he could, just make sure he only had to beam up for the last minute. He hoped the beam would drop to his knees, and dropping his paper ink brush on the floor, where the ink began to travel through the ink began to travel along the paper. He had finished the seal, but what he didn't know that it wasn't how it was supposed to be. Panting, he looked up to see Madara standing in the same spot without a damage to his body. He suddenly gasped, and when his twin-tail yokai cloak dematerialized, and he was left without the power of the QB and the Sage mode. He grabbed the paper, not looking at it, as he charged toward the Uchiha, using lightning chakra to quicken his pace. Within a meter of a man, he heard two words he didn't think he would hear: Shinra Tensei. He was immediately pushed back by invisible force. Now it was his turn to. Oh fuck! Wait. Yes. Now it was his turn to set along the dirt. Now to crouch to his knees and grunt in pain, and broken left arm, twisted ankle, four cracked ribs on his side, and the three broken ones after his left foot do that to you. Not to mention the blood spilling into his right eye from the jack cut above his brow by a couple of rocks from what he was sliding his face a moment ago. When the right eye shut, as he glared at the Uchiha angry, as he had such technique that he thought only Nagato could do because of his Rinnegan. He rose to his feet, using his left foot to support his weight. It was useless for the QB to heal his wound due to the amount he used, as his body couldn't take it anymore. He let a manual amount of lightning chakra shoot through his body, focusing on the injury spot to numb the pain just a bit. It still hurt like a bitch through. He slowly bent down to pick the paper from, not caring what it was dirty, because it's still going to help him finish the menace once again. All Mother had been watching his target for the past minute, studying him. He knew he was exhausted from Sasuke, and still have the stamina to fight. After seeing the blonde get up and had to give him some great respect, only he was giving respect to the level of respect on this level was Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage. Panting at the extent his body was going through. Naruto slowly started to limp over to Madara. He had a plan. It was nothing going to cause much pain to his body, and it hoped it worked. The Uchiha watched as the blonde started impaling toward him. Limping toward him. This kid's tolerance for pain is incredible, he thought as his eye widened as the brat disappeared. Now to use the power of lightning rushed through the battlefield as he thrust his arm toward the man, with right through him, since he knew that it was going to happen. He continued for a little over 5 minutes. He extremely tired now. He knew that he stopped as he was going to drop. He kept going with his mind. He was surprised that the next time he tried to slap the seal of Madara said the man who moved away instead of allowing the blonde to go through him. That's it. He could only keep his intangibility ability to 5 minutes before he has to reach. The QB gave me a little dance of chakra to surprise him, and I could finally end this, Naruto said, running toward the Uchiha for what he wanted to the last time. Madara was carefully dodging the blonde. I guess you can hear the noise, so sorry. Mother was carefully dodging the blonde now, as he was suffering from some few anxieties. Since he was now very vulnerable to his attack, he was having a flashback when he fought Conan. Expected his time, he wasn't going to suffer his last remaining Sharingan eye to use Izanagi. If he did that, all his plan would be for nothing. He needed a Sharingan eye to cast into the moon for his moon eye plan. He would never use Shinra Tensei again. He was inexperienced using Renegan because that he could only use it for 5 minutes. He was going to do it now. He became surprised when Naruto even was faster. He was already going. Naruto appeared in front of the Uchiha in half of a second. He charged up his seal, ready to slap it on Madara's chest. The Uchiha was surprised that instead of the seal being placed on him, being flash of light occurred the night of his face. He covered his eyes in pain since both of his dojutsu were active. Well, his Renegan couldn't be deactive. He opened from them and nobody around him, as he couldn't even feel Naruto's chakra around him, none of it. He looked around, not finding the blonde. After a while he became angered. Son of a bitch, I just lost the fucking QB. Fucking Sasuke, fucking Naruto, fuck, mother, he yelled. He looked at the sky, Jetsu, find him, search everywhere, he commanded. Black Jetsu rose from the ground, meter away from him. Yes, Madara-sama, the black thing said, before shrinking back into the ground. The Uchiha stood around for a while, longer, just seeing in rage. Oh, he roared in anger, using Shinra Tensei to wrapping up the area, destroying the fucking area. Now the only thing there was a crater inside another. Shinobi Central Command. The 4 cages were having a war council. The cages was absent due to being the commander of the army and fighting his own squad shinobi. Speaking of cages, why the hell they are sitting here? The cages get to the fighting to his people. Why can't we fight with the Raikage yelled, slamming his fist into the seal. For once, I agree with the Raikage. We are wasting our time in something we cannot afford. With the Madara out of hunting the lost QB, I say, capitalize on Uchiha's absence, destroy this army of white blob thing, the Tsuchikage said. The Raikage and the Tsuchikage exchanged look and nodded each other. The Mizukage rolled her eyes and both needed to calm down. We have business to discuss and we can do it with you too. Complaining few minutes. I know you want to get there and fight with the other. Sorry, just got for a few business. The Raikage and the Tsuchikage exchanged look and nodded to each other. The Mizukage rolled her eyes. You both need to calm down. We have business to discuss. We can do it with you two complaining every few minutes. I know you want to get out there and fight with one or the other. I do too, but the till QT is gaining war experience. Till then, Al Cutely is gaining war experience, and long he is out there by himself, even ever depending on other. The Aburim female said, leaning her hand on her right palm. And what would you know, ladies admire Reddy's armies into the foreign territories. I'm constantly gaining your experience during a civil war. Not to mention you only been a cage for how long? The old man asked her. Listen here, you three. Three of us cage have only been here in the position, maybe the 3 year troops due to the certain circumstances. We all know you and Rakagedono have been in the position and few exceeded in our own time in office. But the subject doesn't matter. What matters is what each of us can do to help our troops in defending the army. Tsunade said, entering the argument. You know, Hokagedon, you are right. What we have to do in a war as experienced gauge is known what our enemy is going to do next. And that's why this war council has been called, the Mizukage said, supporting our fellow female cage. The other cages gurnly agreed and calmed down. Good, now we can begin this meeting, Tsunade said, making a few hand seals. And a hologram image of Element Nation appeared. According to our scouts, the Akatsuki base is here, she said, as pointing a country middle of the Taki no Kuni and Ta no Kuni. We are going to mobilize our troops to our own and gathering on the bases. We all know these white blobs are just infantry in army. They can unfolded awaiting slaughter. But a word from our ambush Scott says the enemy has revoked use of Edutensei, has made a dead puppet even more dangerous than the old one my teammate Ojimaru used. The specific one just was to resurrect a mysterious, but I expect our troops to expect anybody, she said, as a large cracking noise interrupted the meeting. Everyone looked to their teacups to see. It cracked, all their eye wide, and all the huge crack in the bottom of at the top of the water. It was later second when a cup broke immediately. Half of the tea flew out of the cup, went in the cup. They didn't pay attention to the liquid because soon as they all heard a rumble shock in the room. They looked in the middle of the desk, swirling ripple began to distort the air, knowing it was appeared. Soon Mother appeared, key leaking from his very soul, causing the 4 cages to sweat a little at the actual weight in the intent. This key is more heavier than the last time we fought. The third Tsuchikaze murmured under his breath. They knew each their heads they each rose their head in confusion. They heard us speaking. Where is he? The case the Ujiha spoke menacingly. The Tsunade gasped. Who? She simply said, as anything else would cause her to faint. We don't know who are you talking about, the muscled Raikage said, trying to keep his composure. Don't lie to me, he yelled, pushing the cages to the walls of the room, not using Chinda Sensei but the force of his chakra. Each of the cage hit a separate wall. Ah, my hips, yelled Oniki. Sorry. The one-armed Raikage didn't feel anything from the hitting of the wall, thinking his dense muscle, but he didn't get ready to fully fledged light. The fifth Mizuke slid to the floor on the wall behind her, melting from excess chakra she was leaking from her body. Tsunade hit the wall as as wasn't allowed to slide through the floor, as she felt herself being pulled by unknown force. Her hazel brown eyes were met with both the Sharingan and the Renegan eye, which surprised her. Tell me, where is Uzumaki Naruto? Now with Naruto. A battlefield during the Second Ninja War. The first battle that exists in the war began to begin. This battlefield was Naruto was found by a group of Jonin. Sir, we found a boy unconscious as a couple of miles away from our border in Kimoside. The leader Jonin said, lying the boy on the couch. The leader of the Konoha was the first Hokage, the second Hokage, Senju Tobirama, a young man who wore armor white as his hair. As he reached red marking along his cheek, the line had light blue eyes. He folded his hand in front of him and glanced at the boy on his couch. He looked around the age of five. Sending him to an orphanage would be useless at this time. Now it's time of war. I must see if he has what is to be a ninja. Wait until he regains consciousness to find out what he knows. In the meantime, to send him to the hospital for checkup. Yes, they all said as he picked the kid up and held him to bright style before jumping away from the window. Headed toward the hospital. The second Hokage stood watching as the ninja escorted the young child. This kid has power deep within him. When he received right training Konoha, he would be unstoppable, he thought, as the ninja entered his office. Mission accomplished, Tobirama-sensei. One of the ones, Horizon Subituri, said while walking into the room. The man nodded. Yes, how difficult it was for you to destroy one Iwa stronghold. Horizon took a seat and leaned back a little. Well, one would think doing something like that would be difficult when one is alone, but it would be much easier one cause I was nothing without use the chakra for the decoration of the mission. The mission was almost compassed when I witnessed a group of shinobi located in my trap. What happened after? They must have been retarded because they struggled and continued to patrol, thinking the trap was one of theirs. The shared short laugh stood there. Great job, my students. So, do you understand you're finally doing this and take up your own gaining team soon? Shirituri nodded. This correct. I feel it. I feel it's finally time to pass down my knowledge. Who knows? Who knows? They might be stronger than me one day. Konoha Hospital 3 days later. Beep, beep. Where am I? A young voice thought. Beep, beep. What is that noise? It's annoying as hell. Beep, beep. What happened to Madara? The machine started beeping faster. Beep, beep, beep. What's wrong with him? A voice as heard. I don't know. His heartbeat just went faster. A second voice said. Whose voice was there? Are they examining me on me? Or they are finally taking the kiwi from me? Naruto thought. Well, just don't stand there. Help me. Naruto snapped open the bright light and building him. Don't touch me. His voice was young, but he didn't notice it was a little harsh. He is awake. A female nurse simmered. As she has short light blue hair, as a light purple eyes. She wore a sandal nursing outfit. As her, it was the late 20s. Her face was cute and her lips were tightened with blue. Her bust was large D-cup and her hips firmly large, leading to a large rump. Her figure was an average Kunoichi. He could tell that the nurse was just as a part-time job, by she carried herself. But how it estimated that is supposed to be one of the last week. The second female nurse said. She was in her early 20s. She had brown hair and dark green eyes. She too wore the standard nurse outfit. The nurse was different. She wore no lipstick and brown hair. was rather long, her bust was small, big, and her hips were small. However, she still had a nice butt. She spent her life being a nurse with no amount of ninja training. Naruto was confused. What do you mean, where am I? He asked. In the village hidden in the leaves. Then the second said, walking into the room. The second Hokage, by the way. Naruto looked at the door, see the second Hokage. His eye widened as his eye paled. He didn't pay attention to what the man said. Am I dead? He said, asked Gumpy louder. Confusing showed around the face of Tobirama and the nurse. What the furball? He closed his eye. Furball? Where are you? He yelled in his mind. With no response, his eyes snapped open. What's wrong, child? The blonde leveled a glare at the man. I'm not a child, but the brown-haired nurse grabbed a nearby hand mirror and showed now to his reaction. Holy fuck, I'm a child! He yelled, just now noticing how small his entire body was. What the fuck happened to me? He whispered under his breath. He began to have flashback. The last thing he happened. Remember, I killed Sasuke when I unable to kill Madara with him. He began to remember his friend Sasuke. I'm sorry again for having to take your life. His eye began to burn like this time. After he killed Sasuke, the blonde began to furiously rub his eye, causing the nurses to panic. What's wrong with your eye, child? The purple-eyed nurse asked. They're burning. The blonde answered the question. The Senju moved closer to the show me your eyes. Naruto spent the next 2 minutes rubbing his eyes. Before opening, they started to listen. He slowly began to open his eye, causing the Hokage to reel back in shock. What's wrong? Your eyes. This sight of surprised Hokage surprised the occupied of the room. My eyes, Naruto thought, terrified about what just might land. He reached the mirror and tapped slowly rose to the eye level, keeping his eye closed. After taking deep breath, he opened his eyes. The first thing he saw, the eye was ripple-like pattern effect around his purple. A light burned his skull. Damn it! He explained. Why my eyes are hurting. I have the Renegan, he muttered. Do. Hey, should I upload this video right now? Or second part, I guess. I don't know. I guess I should upload the first one.